West Region Championship game at Al Houghton Stadium between Northern California, the team from San Jose, and Southern California, the team from Quartz Hill. A win or go home game between the two teams from California. A trip to Greenville on the line.
The journey has been long, but is far from over. These girls have given it all they got, representing their hometowns. That kind of electric atmosphere is what we have to look forward to. They will remember this forever. Now it's time to put it all on the line. One win away from the opportunity of a lifetime. A trip to the Little League Softball World Series for a summer they will remember forever. Midway Little League, your World Series champions!
Regional. That's Natasha Watley. I'm Eric Rothman. Happy to be here with you. We started with 6 teams in this West region. We are down to the final 2. Unfortunately, had to say goodbye to 4 of them, with Utah, Nevada, Hawaii, and Arizona all departing a little bit earlier than they wanted to. But we have a rematch of an opening round game between Northern California and Southern California. It was a close one until SoCal put up 8 runs in the final 2 innings to pull ahead for the victory. Southern California is undefeated in this tournament so far, winning an extra inning nail-biter against Arizona. And then Northern California, they've won 3 straight elimination games coming out of the consolation bracket. And the team from Almaden Little League in San Jose, California, ready to go for win number 4 in a row. As we take a look at the Almaden Little League squad from San Jose, just under 1 million people in the area, 50 miles southeast of San Francisco, big tech community, and of course their manager, John Drake. And Natasha, hasn't been an easy road, but they have been the queens of the comeback here in this tournament.
They absolutely have been the queens of the comeback, and they always figure out a way to stick around their opponents and pull through. On Monday, doing it in a dramatic fashion, putting up together 3 runs in the top of the 6th to walk away with a 5-4 win. And yesterday versus Arizona, losing going into the 5th inning and putting up 5 runs to walk away with the 8-4 win.
Northern California has done a great job of taking advantage of the mistakes of their opponents. We'll see if that continues here today. That's Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo. She'll be the starting pitcher for Southern California. The team from Quartz Hill, small town in the Lancaster-Palmdale area, about 77 miles northwest of where we are now. Their team motto, according to manager Steve Sandberg, today, not tomorrow. Well, they have taken this tournament one day at a time, with wins every time they've been out on this field.
Yes, and Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo, she has been the difference for this team in the circle. Definitely leading, stepping up. She's been a force at the plate, just getting her team going. And this Southern California team is a force to be reckoned with.
A comeback extra inning win for SoCal in the semifinal game against Arizona. Punched them a ticket to this regional final. Southern California, they beat Hawaii in the first game, and then I mentioned the first game between Northern California and Southern California, an 11-4 victory for Quartz Hill, and then the nail-biter, a 2-1 walk-off victory thanks to a triple from Ariana Serta. We're ready for a first pitch from San Bernardino. Oh, it's only 100 degrees. Not too bad. We're going to crown a West Region champion when we come back. All right, so our 2 teams here at the West Regional decided they didn't want to wait around for us. They already got underway. One out here in the top of the first inning as Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo gets Kita Gutierrez to ground out. Back to the pitcher for out number 1. BSZ, the ace in the circle for Southern California, as she now faces Jada Drake, the shortstop from Northern California. Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo, this is her 4th start of the tournament. She has pitched all but 1 1/3 innings for this Southern California team. She's went 17 2/3, giving up just 3 earned runs, striking out 20. Jada Drake, swing and a miss. Drake the starting shortstop for Northern California, Natasha, but she's also the closer who comes in and really shuts down the ball game in the circle.
Yes, and just so fun watching these athletes who can play on both sides of the plate. But Jada Drake, definitely one that is a true athlete and gets it done on both sides.
Opposite field base hit for Jada Drake. One-out single to start things for Northern California. Northern California, 3 straight wins after losing their opening game to this Southern California team. As Brooklyn Scott, the catcher, steps in. They have been on the brink of elimination multiple times in this tournament. They just have so much heart and grittiness. As a swing and a miss there to Scott. They were down 4-1 in the second round game against Utah. That was in the last inning of regulation. They came back to tie it in the 6th and go ahead for the victory in the 7th. And then, as Natasha mentioned in our open, down against the Arizona team in the semifinals before scoring 8 runs on 5 hits. Most of those runs late in the game against Arizona. What is it, Natasha, about this Northern California team that you've seen that allows them to just kind of hang around?
Yeah, well, I will say they are one of the feistiest teams I've ever seen here at Little League regionals, and they just like stay together. 1 through 12, 13, every single one of them is packing a punch, and they just have a lot of fight in them.
Absolutely. Brooklyn Scott, the catcher for this Northern California team, 3 for 10 in the tournament thus far. Runner on first base with 1 out. 0-2 count from the lefty, Brooklyn Sandberg-Zygo. That's one of the things that's tricky about Brooklyn Sandberg-Zygo is she is, as far as I can remember, the only left-handed pitcher we've seen in this regional.
Yeah, and when you're not used to facing a lefty, it could be a little bit tricky. They've got different spin. You're seeing off of a different trajectory, watching her release point from her left hip, and just everything breaks differently. She's got a rise through, she has a rollover drop, and her changeup is like college level changeup.
There's that changeup, strikeout of Brooklyn Scott right on cue. We have seen so many of the 21 strikeouts that Brooklyn Sandberg-Zygo has in this tournament come via the change.
Yeah, and that changeup is a flip change, and so whenever you see a flip change, it's all a roll off of the pitcher's fingers, and so that's how she's able to slow the pitch down and almost kind of pull a string on it.
Here's Danica Garcia, one of the extra hitters in the lineup with 2 outs and a runner on first. We say extra hitters because there is a new rule this year, the continuous batting order rule. And essentially, no matter how many players you have, everybody bats in order. There are no pitch hitters this year at the Little League Softball Regionals. It replaced what was once known as the mandatory play rule that required everybody to get subbed in and subbed out. It slowed down the game. It was confusing to the coaches and to the umpires. This has really cleaned things up.
Yeah, and I think just the tempo of the game just feels a lot better. And I also think about the coaches too, like not having to worry about subbing in so-and-so for so-and-so and keeping track of that. It's just a lot.
Off-speed pitch, called strike from home plate umpire Christine Larson. Larson joined by Antonio Medina at first, Ray Valverde at second, and John Biggs, the third base umpire, your all-volunteer umpiring crew. 1-2 the count to Garcia. She fights that one off, and one of the things that goes unsaid, but we like to point it out, is thanking the umpires for their service. You know, they're taking time out of their lineup with 2 outs and a runner on first. We say extra hitters because there is a new rule this year, the continuous batting order rule. And essentially, no matter how many players you have, everybody bats in order. There are no pitch hitters this year at the Little League Softball Regionals. It replaced what was once known as the mandatory play rule that required everybody to get subbed in and subbed out. It slowed down the game. It was confusing to the coaches and to the umpires. This has really cleaned things up.
Yeah, and I think just the tempo of the game just feels a lot better. And I also think about the coaches too, like not having to worry about subbing in so-and-so for so-and-so and keeping track of that. It's just a lot.
Off-speed pitch, called strike from home plate umpire Christine Larson. Larson joined by Antonio Medina at first, Ray Valverde at second, and John Biggs, the third base umpire, your all-volunteer umpiring crew. 1-2 the count to Garcia. She fights that one off. And one of the things that goes unsaid, but we like to point it out, is thanking the umpires for their service. You know, they're taking time out of their... California will be the home team today. Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo getting the gear on. She will be leading things off for a very balanced offense. Michaela Thomas, the catcher behind her. Ariana Serta batting third. Serta had the walk-off triple in the semifinal game against Arizona to send Southern California to this championship game. And they'll be dealing with Maya Parada, who has started every single game in the tournament for Northern California. She's pitched 15 total innings, given up just 5 earned runs. And Natasha, she doesn't have the strikeout numbers like Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo does, but she puts a lot of balls in play, and her defense has really backed her up in this tournament.
Yeah, I think Maya Parada is one of those pitchers you look at and you're just so frustrated because she's not overpowering. She's super efficient. She throws with precision and she just hits her spots. She throws a lot of strikes. She gets the job done. She's a frustrating pitcher if you were a hitter having to face her.
And the efficiency, she's pitched 15 innings. She's only walked 4 batters, which at this level is very impressive.
Yeah, just her accuracy, she's got so much command and control over her pitches, and she knows that, you know, I'm not going to strike out a lot of hitters, but I'm going to rely on my defense, going to allow these hitters to put the ball in play and let my defense go to work for me.
The first meeting between these two, Northern California was winning 4-3 after the 4th inning, and then really kind of shot themselves in the foot, had a couple of errors, had a couple of wild pitches that cost them runs. That really broke the game open for Southern California. So if they're able to tighten that up, no reason why this shouldn't be a tight game down the stretch. Here is Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo. First pitch swinging, right back up the box for a single in the center field. And Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo, her 3rd hit of the tournament, a leadoff single.
Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo. I mean, this girl's got so much swag. This girl can play this game, and she's just an athlete on both sides of the plate. Obviously, we talked about her pitching, but I'm more impressed with her at-bats at the plate. She's just a straight-up competitor.
Here is Michaela Thomas, the catcher. Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo. That swag, I think, comes from Grandpa Steve, the manager.
It has to.
Steve Sandberg, Brooklyn's grandfather, the manager of this Southern California team. What a character he is. We've enjoyed chatting with him all week as Thomas pops that one up on the bunt attempt for out number 1. Good job by Brooklyn Scott to make the play. But Grandpa Steve, he's like Lou Brown, the manager of the Indians in Major League. He's a guy who's been around. He said before the season he was retired. I'm not coaching again. His granddaughter said, come on, Grandpa Steve, one more year. And he's back. Here he is, the former paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne. He's a great guy and a great mentor to these young girls.
Yeah, just from talking to him, my little conversation with him, it's like, gosh, I would love to play for this guy. He's just so direct and, you know, inspiring with his words and his tone.
Here is Ariana Serta, 1 out and a runner on first. That ball gets by the catcher Brooklyn Scott, and Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo over to second. So a runner in scoring position for Serta, who's 3 for 9 in the tournament, including a game-winning walk-off triple against Arizona a couple nights ago. That one lifted into the air to center field. Coming in to make the catch at the shoestrings is Lily Ferguson. Waited to the last millisecond to catch that ball.
What an amazing way to just stay with that. You can see off the bat that both Hannigan and Lily Ferguson in center field were kind of figuring out who was going to make that catch, but the center fielder always has the right of way, and Ferguson making sure she makes that catch.
Ferguson's got the web gem here today. We saw Hannigan out in left field make some spectacular catches yesterday in the win for Northern California. So the outfield getting it done and backing up Maya Parada now with 2 outs and a runner on second for Katrina Ramirez. One of the older players, you see, 13 years old. You're allowed to be 13, just kind of depending on when you were born, what month. Typically, the participants ages 10 to 12 years old. Ramirez had the game-tying RBI in the 7th inning against Arizona. She's come up in big spots before. Here's the 0-2. Sandberg Zygo out there at second. She is very aggressive on the base paths, as is this whole Southern California team. That is the strategy of Coach Steve Sandberg. We're going to put runners in motion. That's into shallow right field, right at the edge of the infield dirt. And Gutierrez makes the catch to end the inning. 3 fly ball outs for Parada after the leadoff single. No score as we move to the second. Eric Rothman, Natasha Watley here with you. And a team from California has gone on to win the Little League World Series a few times. In fact, 5 times in the history of the tournament. 3rd in the standings by state. As you've seen, Texas has dominated the Little League Softball World Series over the years, having won 14 championships. And so one of these teams looking to add one more to the tally for California if they can earn a trip to Greenville. A hot day here in San Bernardino, as it has been all week long, but some steady pitching despite the stage that these girls are on. Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo and Maya Parada looking sharp here early.
Yeah, and they both had their A games today. They came out to play, and this is when you rise to the occasion. This is when you want your best performance to show up, and so far, so good.
Lead it off here in the second inning. It's Anya Kapoor, the right fielder. It's the lefty Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo. First pitch smacked into center field. A base hit for Kapoor. In the middle of this Northern California lineup, starting with Kapoor and then Hannigan and Layla Ortiz, has really done a nice job hitting the ball throughout this entire tournament. Between the 3 of them, they've amassed 14 runs scored in the 4 games played.
And I think that just is a testament when we talked about earlier how these are their comeback girls. Can't take any hitters off.
And a floater to Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo, or excuse me, Ava Santa Cruz, who makes the play for out number 1. And that'll bring up Layla Ortiz, the 3rd baseman. Talk about big-time clutch hits. Layla Ortiz, a game-winning RBI in extra innings against Utah. You saw her bio there. She's a Swiftie. We've got a lot of Swifties here in San Bernardino this year. Strike called right down the middle. One of the things that you and I have talked about, Natasha, throughout this tournament is Brooklyn Sandberg Zygo really seems to step her game up when she has runners on base. Yes,
it seems like the higher the pressure moments, the more she rises to the occasion, and she's just a pure competitor. I've enjoyed watching her throw throughout this whole entire tournament, and she has a plan. She pitches with conviction, and she's a fighter.
Smacked the other way, foul, as Ortiz stays alive. When asked who Layla Ortiz would most like to meet, Natasha, she said Gordon Ramsay, because she would like to improve her cooking skills.
Oh.
And I don't know, there's a lot of celebrity chefs. I don't know if I would go with the guy that just yells at you all day if you wanted to learn.
Yeah, I'll be a food taster. I'm down.
That's right. Popped up foul territory. Coming in to make the catch on her knees is Elena Elias for out number 2.
And Elena Elena Elias just finding where she is at in foul territory, just making sure she gets to this ball, dropping to her knees, making a spectacular catch.
Great defensive glove work by both teams so far. Lefty on lefty matchup here as Isabella Aguirre stands in. Leadoff batter Anya Kapoor reaching with a single. She's still standing over there at first. Aguirre says favorite vacation that she's been on, Switzerland. Sounds amazing. I'd like to vacation with the Aguirre family if that's where we're going. So she's been playing softball since she was on the 6 and under team. So a lifer so far, Isabella Aguirre, down on the count 1-2. On the ground to the right side, Ariana Soda has it. On the first, number 3. Sandberg Zygo gave up the leadoff single and then shuts down the Northern California offense. We go to the bottom of the second, no score here at the West Region Final. We've got a no-score game between Northern and Southern California. Maya Parada gave up a single to the leadoff batter in the first inning, nothing after that, and she will be facing Alina Elias to start things off here in the second, who just made that defensive web gem. And that seems to be how it always happens, is you make the great play on the field, and then just so happens you're up to bat next, coming up the next inning.
Spotlight is on you.
Elias 1 for 8 in the tournament. And our favorite baseball player is Shohei Ohtani, another Swiftie as well. What a week it's been for Shohei Ohtani. Let's see if Alina Elias can emulate him here today. Since we've hit the semifinals and now finals in this region, Natasha, we have not seen a lot of teams trying to manufacture runs like we did in the early round games with the bunts and steals. Maybe that changes today if this game stays close.
Yeah, I think if we get in later innings and the score is still tight, I think we'll see that. I just think that teams have been making the adjustments at the plate and trying to manufacture runs just by straight up hitting, and sometimes maybe too the defenses have been falling apart sometimes, depending on who you're talking about.
Both of these teams, as Elias is hit in the bat, both of these teams have taken advantage of opponents making mistakes. You go back to Southern California's first game against Hawaii in this tournament. Southern California scored 10 runs. They only needed 3 hits in that game because Hawaii committed 6 errors. And similarly for Northern California in their game yesterday against Arizona, they won that game 8-4, but Arizona had 5 defensive errors, a lot of those late in the game that kind of put it out of reach for them. As the runner Elias breaks her second, great throw, and the call at second is out. Brooklyn Scott with the sniper, and there's one away.
And that throw was on the money. Brooklyn Scott, fire me up. Nobody is running on me today. That is what Brooklyn Scott is screaming. I love it.
Good tag as well. And before we get there, will we see a challenge on the play as Christine Larson, our home plate umpire, calls a time? Nope, we will resume. So 1 out, and Emma Garcia up to the plate, the lefty. 1 for 6 in the tournament. First pitch swinging to the left side. It's going to be a long throw for Taylor Drake. Airmails the first baseman, and now Garcia's in trouble. Garcia caught in no man's land, going back to first, getting run down. First. 2 players for Southern California running themselves into outs, and there's 2 away.
And Jada Drake just airballed his throw, but just the heads-up play by Isabella Aguirre to stay with this. and had the ability to get her to go in a run down. Incredible play, and that is a huge out.
2 down now for Bella Heckler. What do they say, Natasha? Defense wins championships?
That's what they say. That's what they say.
Heckler says her favorite food is chicken and waffles, Southern California. Good place to get those.
And I was like, same. Same, Bella. Let's hang out.
Popped up, and Brooklyn Scott. She had the throw down and the put out at second, and then now makes out number 3 on the foul ball. An unconventional 1-2-3 inning. No score after 2 here in San Bernardino.